How are you guys doing today? We're going to start the meeting at 7:05. We're going to go straight with Joy, who's going to cover the score sheet and enlighten us. I am recording the webinar to also disseminate it after we're done with the meeting to the rest of the Lions if they want to review it. So this is our first workshop volunteer with Morrison Chess. We have here Joy Yao and Dewain Barber, who will enlighten us even further on the intricacies and details of chess tournaments. All right, Joy, take over. And you have screen sharing privileges. Everybody does, so be careful if you click by accident the screen sharing. So go ahead, Joy.
Okay, let me see if I can share it. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, this is my first time to do this. Please bear with me. I'm doing this as a parent of a chess player. Never had any experience of this. I'm just watching this for many times. Anyway, so this is a typical, how to say that, the chess tournament score keep sheet we are having. And you know what? There's a name for this. It's called round robin.
What?
So, round robin. Round robin. See?
Round
Robin.
robin, is that
Round robin.
Round robin, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pairing system that is used in chess tournament. Basically, in this system, everybody got to play with everybody else. So player 1 play with player 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on and so forth. So how does this work? So this is a sheet, okay? We will print out the sheet. It's very simple. This is an example of even player 10. I think it's a maximum we can handle. So you have 10 players. Imagine it's in one table, round 1. And you have them sit in this order. Let me enlarge this. Okay. So this is 1, 2, 3, player 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is one table. Imagine you're sitting here. And board 1 is player 1 to 10, board 2 is player 2 to 9. This is the first round. You have them sit in this way. So in round robin, the simple way to do the rotation is you have the player 1 sitting in the same place every round. Don't have this person move. You move the last person, player 10, counterclockwise in this case. So you move 10 to this place. Then you move 2 downwards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then the round 3, you move 9 to this place. Then now push 10 downward. Then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Round 4, same logic. Move 8 down. 8, 9, 10. You keep number 1, same place. At the end of the round 9, so 10 people, right? You have 9 rounds. Because, player 1 doesn't play with player 1 himself or herself. So you see that player 1 got to play 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is the general logic. If you got less player, it's simpler. If you can deal with this, you can deal with any number of player, even player. Okay. Before I go to odd player, any questions?
Could I mention a note about the score sheet?
Yeah, I will give an example later. Yes. So odd player, same things. I have 9 player in this case. It's an odd. So what do? In my example, I have the player 1 replaced by bye. And bye means that you have an empty seat there. So you have player 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 sitting in the same sequence. Then you rotate the same way. 9 push down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Same way. So each player got one round to play with nobody. He or she will go, sit there watching other people play. So that's what happened in odd player. Usually when we do this kind of, tournament, you want to organize as many as even player as possible, which usually you only have probably one odd player, group. Hopefully we can do that this time. All right. So I want to go, before I go to the example, I want to just go through the simple, logic base of how the score is kept. So see here, there's a total in this way, okay? There's no total down there. What does that mean? The score is counting this way. It's counting by row. What does that mean? It means that when the player wins, you look for the row. So for example, player 2 play with player 3. If player 2 wins, you put numbers here. If player 3 wins, you put numbers here. You always look at it, oh, who win? Oh, player 3 win. You go to row player 3, then column player 2. You have 1 putting here. Later on, I'm going to show you an example on that. That's a general rule of the base. Then at the end of the day, you just need to add up all the, the score here. You get a total. Then whoever get the highest, will get a first place. Okay, now let's go to the example. First example. Let me put it bigger. Okay, 4 player, very simple. Even number, 4 player. Let me put bigger. Sorry. Okay, 4 player. Okay. So very simple, 4 player. Round 1, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Round 2, you have 1. You put a 4 here. 2, 3. Round 3, you have 1. You put a 3 down there. 1, 3, 4, 2. Okay, so you player 1 play with 4, 3, 2. Everybody else. Okay, so this is a scenario. In round 1, who wins? On board 1, player play with player 4, player 1 win. So what do? You look for player 1 and you look for player 4. So this is where you find the place you put the score. What do you put? Because player 1 win, you get a 1 point. And on the board 2, player 2 play with player 3. You got a player 3 win. So you look at player 3, then you look at a player 2, you put a 1 here. Is everybody with me? Everybody with me? Okay. All right, I'm going to keep going.
Well, I have a question. This is Larry.
Go ahead.
What happens if you have a tie?
Yeah, that's then second example. I'll explain. You have a tie. First one, let's deal with simple first. Okay. So round number 2. Player 1 with player 3. Player 3 win. You look for player 3, and you look for player 1. What do? You put a 1 here. Right? Round 2. Player 4 with player 2. Player 2 win. So you do player 2 and a player 4. You put a 1 here. Round 3. Player 1 versus player 2. Player 1 win. You put 1 and a 2. 1. Player 3 versus player 4. Player 3 win. 3 and a 4. You put 1. So I have here already put a formula. It equals to sum here. But in real game, you got to do your own brain calculation. 1 plus 1 equals 2. This is 1. This is 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. So who's the first place? Number 3 is the first place. Number 1 is the second place. And number 2 is the third place. This is the first game. Okay. I'm going to move to the next example, which is we're going to have a draw. We're going to have a draw here. All right. So same things. Hopefully you can figure this out by yourself why I'm doing this. So player 1 with player 4, player 1 win. So 1, 2, 4, 1. Player 2 versus player 3 win. So player 3 versus 2 win. Player 1 versus player 3 win. Player 3 win. So player 3 versus player 1, 1. Player 4 versus player 2 draw. That's different from the first example. So when you have a draw, you put a 0.5 on each person's cell. So what do? You put 4 versus 2 here, 0.5. And 2 versus 4 here, what? 0.25. Now you probably can find a pattern is that all the score actually is symmetric to this line, the central line. See that? You either put a 1 here, you either put a 1 here. In this case, you can see the pattern very clearly. You put a number half out here. Each side share half point. So the last round, player 1 versus player 2, player 1 wins. So that's 1. And the player 3 versus player 4, player 3 wins. So that is the 1. So in this case, your first play is player 3. Your second place is player 1. Third place, you have a tie. So this is, will be up to the tournament director if he wants to award them, I don't know, same or the award badge, or if, he wants them to have a one more round, just so that, one person get the third place.
Doesn't that add up to 6?
Yes, you're right. Oh my God, you're awesome. How do you get a 6? Okay, there is a math in there. Anybody want to listen to that? So there's a way to check it. Marlene, thank you. You're very, very good at this. I don't want to talk about this, but anybody, if you're interested in the math point of this, there's a way to check your score. So if you have a 4 player, your total score will be 6. How do you get that? The formula of this is n times n minus 1 divided by 2. So you just place your number of players into this n. So in the case of 4, you do what? You do equals to 4 times 4 minus 1 divided by 2. Equals to 4 times 3 divided by 2. Equals 12 divided by 2 equals 6. See that? So that formula applies to all this round robin rule. So if you wonder ever, did I do the right things? You just add this up and use this formula. Say, hey, this add up to 6? Yes, I did it right. You can use this formula to check. I have the next one is 5 player. One second, I want to show this so that keep this here. I have this 5 player, all the player. Okay, we can use the same formula to check this. All right, so I'm going to do this. This is all odd. Remember, odd we will have by this case. So in the round robin, by means that the person doesn't get any score. So leave it. So again, player 1 versus 4, I got player 1 to 4, 1 win. Player 2 versus 3, player 2 win. So 2 versus 3. I go to here, 5 versus 3, 3 win. 3 versus 5. Player 1 versus 2, player 1 win. So 1 point here. Player 4 versus 2, player 4 win. 4 versus 2. Player 5 versus player 1, player 5 win. That's 1 here. The last round is, oh, sorry, there's more round. Remember, 5 people, 5 round. Okay. Round 4, 3 versus 1, 3 win. So 3. 4 versus 5, 5 win. So 5 got 1 point. 2 versus 5, 5 win. So 5 got 1 point. 3 versus 4, 3 win. 3 versus 4, 3 win. Okay. So in this case, you get a draw on the third and the fifth. So they have to do another round in this case, because it's for the first place. Then the second place is number 1. Oh, so if they got like, they need to have another round. Whoever win get the first place, whoever lose in that round get a second place. Then the third place will be player number 1. So this is either 3 or 5, right? Okay, so we verify this. Remember, you got a 6 and this is 10. How you get a 10 is equals 5 times 5 minus 1 divided by 2 equals 5 times 4 divided by 2 equals 20 divided by 2 equals 10. Okay, so you got a 10, which means that you recorded it correctly. Thank you, Maureen.
Yeah.
All right, that's all. That's all I want to explain. Any questions?
Could, yes, if I mention a couple of items, if I may. First of all, let's look at the very last result. You notice we have a tie for first versus second place. What we do with, and please understand, we're not dealing with players in a rated situation. There's all kinds of different formulas and different methods by which those kids are decided upon as to who took first, who took second, who took third. So they have a tie-break system. The simplest tie-break system we have that shows up right here in this last step. And that is, if you will notice, player 3 beat player 5 in their actual round game. Therefore, because they beat the player they're tied with, on tiebreak, we would automatically choose player 3, and then player 5 would take second place, and then the third place would go to player 1. By doing it that way, it's real simple. We don't have to have, and here's where the challenge comes in. We do not want, nor do we have time, to generate additional games beyond those that they're playing with the players in their section. Now, well, I'll just say it flat out. I've been doing this for 50 years, and I understand that there are a lot of different variations where things can work out. But one of the things I've learned about the Morrison and also the Stacer happens to be 44 years old. One thing I've learned is that we do not have the time to play a playoff game, because that could last as well as 30, 40 minutes. What we're asking then is for the other players who got maybe third place or maybe are tied for third, and the first and second place get a trophy or whatever, but the players then are kept there to remain while this tiebreak game takes place. So we try to avoid it in any way we can. It's not always perfect. It doesn't always happen, but it's up to, it's not my decision. It's up to whoever's the chief tournament director. I don't know if that'll be Lewis this year or if it'll be somebody else, but we want to try to avoid those if we can. So we'll see how it plays out. We are not under necessarily a time restriction, but if we can avoid having to come back after lunch, there's going to be a lot of happy parents, because mom and dad does not want to come back and sit another hour or 2 hours. And so if I may address this score sheet in terms of section size, we need, and I recommend to Marisol when she takes registration, we need to do the best we can to keep it to 8 or below. Moving into 9 or 10 players creates all kinds of challenges, because if the quote tournament ends, we could have one player who's got 3 games he never played. And we have another player who has 2 games he's never played. And that might influence the outcome, how the results would be for second and third. So when I mentioned the form I sent to Marisol, which is similar to this, I mentioned to her that we need to try to keep it to 8 or below. Now let's deal with is it okay if I continue, Marisol, or did you have other items that you wanted to deal with, or Joy may have something else she wants to share with us?
No, that's all I want to share. Thank you.
No, please continue. Unless somebody
Okay.
has a question right now. We're all good? Okay.
Would you like me to address a couple of more topics?
Yes, protocol, I think I feel pretty confident with the score sheet, just to let you guys know. I like just understanding it. After the meeting, like I mentioned, I'll probably, I'll just send it to everybody else who's interested in watching that little section of the score sheet. We might have really good volunteers. I talked to Joe Narvaez earlier today, so he's going to be volunteering, and he could probably take 2 to 3 sections from my understanding. So we're getting good volunteers to be present at the tournament. But go ahead, Dewain. We're good.
Thank you. Let's spend a little bit more time at the score sheet. Can you bring it up from the original, the large 10 player? Okay. As I mentioned, I have attended anywhere from 2 to 5 tournaments every year for virtually over half of my life. Let's put it that way. And during the course of that time, there are always challenges that are going to come up, and we need to work them out. One thing about creating rounds, as indicated below, is that yes, that might happen, but you also have another challenge, and that kids are going to finish at different times. You don't want the kids sitting around. That's the last word. So if 2 kids are finished with their games, then you can repair based on the fact that, oh, I didn't play player 4 and I'm player 2. Okay, so let them proceed, because if we have them sit around until round 4, round 5, round 6, round 7, if we have them sit around while they're waiting for the player they're supposed to play in round 7, they're not getting the tournament done. We want them to play chess as often as possible. So let's take the following scenario. Everybody's been playing, finish up about the same time. They find somebody else that's available that they haven't played, so they can pair off and play that person. But then 4 of the kids, two pairs that finish up are done, but they've already played each other. So how do we do? Do we let them sit there and wait till the other games are over with? Here is my suggestion that I've used for many years. They should now play a recreation game. That means if one player happened to play white, then have them switch color. It doesn't count. That's the important part. It's simply recreational to keep them occupied, busy, and involved. We do not want to have 2 kids standing around not doing anything. By doing the recreational games, and who's ever in charge of the section can very easily do that. Just say, okay, Bill, Charles, I'm sorry, guys, but everybody else is still playing, but I'll get you paired up as soon as somebody finishes. And so they may play 5 or 10 minutes, a little recreation. Okay, so now we found two players that each of those two kids who are playing recreation can play against. So everybody sets up the board, we let them pair off, and away they go. And so we try to keep them, you know, occupied and involved in what they're doing. As far as ties go, yeah, that's going to happen because the younger kids, especially, we're not dealing with high school kids. These are mostly kids that are going to be relatively inexperienced. If I said impassant, they'd look at me with a strange look like, oh, are we speaking French now? Parlez-vous français? No, no, we're not speaking French. We're speaking chess. So we have to be careful because they're going to struggle with these ideas of moving. Here is the most critical, this next one, the most critical point that we need to make with these young people. We play touch move. I was with, and I thank Joy very much for having our session that we had earlier Saturday. I think it was wonderful, the 8 kids that were there. But I just happened to pull up a chair and I was sitting across from these 2 young girls. And they were touching all the different pieces. And I thought, oh gosh, we gotta step up. Please make, to the best of your ability, make certain that they understand if you touch the piece and it's legal to move it, you must move it. You can't put your king in check. You can't make an illegal move, but you got to move it. By doing that, it's one of the most important rules that they will be following when they begin radio chess. We don't want kids sitting there arguing. Now, let's take a situation. 2 kids raise their hand. What do we say when we go over there? And my problem with a lot of people who are directing sections, a lot of TDs or whatever, is the first thing they do is they go over and look at the board. Question, did the board ask the question, or did the board raise its hand? No, the player raised his hand. I go directly to the player who's got his hand raised, and I make it very simple. Can I help you? No complications there. Because you had your hand raised, I'm asking you a question. I'm not assuming anything. For all I know, the kid may be sick and he has to, leave the tournament. But I have to ask just that one question. Can I help you? Kid looks at you, states, yes. I noticed my opponent touch this pawn, and then he moved the knight. And we're playing touch move. Well, the first thing I answer is, yes, we are playing touch move. Then I have a challenge to deal with. How do I deal with that? And I look at the other youngster and I said, did you by chance touch that piece when you were, playing your move? And he says, well, I touched it when I was reaching over and wanting to pick up my knight instead of moving the pawn. Okay, players do this. We're dealing with children that are trying to manipulate a huge, in their mind, it is a huge 64 square board. This is not that as easy as we may think. It is a challenge back at that time. So we must then try to come up with a rational solution, and I leave that door open. You'll make a decision, and let's hope that it's satisfactory or whatever works out. So if 2 kids come up and both of them have their hands raised, you go over, and it doesn't matter. Just speak to Kathy and say, Kathy, can I help you? And then Kathy says, well, the game's a draw. So what's the next step? You record the result? No. You look directly at Bill and say, Bill, Kathy, has said the game is a draw. Do you agree? You see, that doesn't put the burden on me. I'm not even looking at the board. So many TDs want to manipulate the pieces and do that. Forget about that. Get to the players and ask Bill, Bill, do you agree it's a draw? No, it's not a draw. Game goes on. Okay. Then I go back to Kathy. Kathy, would you explain to me why you believe the game is a draw? And now she has an opportunity to put the evidence on the table and say, well, it's a draw because we've just been moving around the board and there's been nothing happened, no pieces are taken, and we're just not going anywhere. Okay. So work your way through it. And if you feel uncomfortable, what should you do at that time when maybe there's something a little bit more here that you're not ready for? You raise your hand. Do not be afraid to raise your hand and get help. You're not burdened to try to figure out the complications that may exist in this disagreement. Okay? What'll happen is the floor TD will come over. And if I've worked with him, or whoever he may be, you know what he's going to say? He's going to say, can I help you, Mr. Barber? And I'll say, yes, I have a question here I'd like you to deal with. And take a couple of steps back. Let that floor chief tournament director take care of his skills and manage that situation, because you're not just tied to 2 kids. You're tied to 8 kids. Pay attention to the whole group. And now let him work through it. And then he'll come up and say, okay, the game was a draw, so give each player a half point. And let's go on. But I think sometimes we get this impression that we absolutely have to make a decision on whether I do or do not know. I don't want to bother anybody. That's why the floor TD is there, whoever he or she happens to be. And they are USCF rated, and many of them have expert ratings in chess. And they've been through the whole Scholastic program. They know what happens. Take advantage of that information and use their services where possible. Next note, if I may touch on another one. Okay, so the young fellow raises his hand. I go over and, can I help you? Oh, Mr. Barber, I got to go use the restroom. Okay, well, you know where the restroom is in the building. Just go on over and then come back. Is that right or wrong? With what I just said.
Wrong.
Marcel, right or wrong?
Wrong.
Why?
He's supposed to raise his hand and be escorted by one of the monitors, and then escorted to the parent to draw them out and then bring them back.
Correct. Do not release a child to walk to the restroom. You may not know that building at Ladera Vista, but the gymnasium has restrooms that are behind the bleachers. It is not an area that is visible in any capacity for where our tournament staff will be. Therefore, we need a parent to come up, say, yes, I'll take Bill back to the restroom. Okay, so we'll take care of that. That relieves us of the responsibility if anything at all occurs. We need to make certain that our decisions are there and that they are clear. And that. So use the restroom, it comes back. Does he just walk right back in the tournament? No. I'm going to take some blue painter's tape, and with the permission of the Fullerton School District, I'm going to put it on their floor. And that'll be a blue line. Parents are not allowed beyond that blue line in the tournament area. And the kids must have somebody escorting them in some capacity if they need to talk to their parents for some reason or whatever. Then the kid can we'll get him over to the blue line, and then the parent can talk to him there, and we'll try to get that done as clearly and safely and easily as possible. I have had some tournaments in the past where I have seen that parents have mingled around inside the tournament area. No, do not allow the parents to do that. That area does not belong to them. They have no business being there. That area belongs to us. And it'll be very clearly marked that this is ours. Your area is in the bleachers. So sit in the bleachers, relax, have a nice day, whatever. But if the kid, if we have something that we have to deal with the parents, we will. So the tables, we will have 8-foot tables, as far as I know. And those 8-foot tables will accommodate a total of anywhere from 4 to 6 chess sets. But again, we're not looking at huge sections. So the 8-foots, even the 6-foots will handle 4 sets. So that takes care of whatever our needs are. Marisol, is it okay, Matt, talk about who ends up in a section?
Yes, please.
This part is critical. Marisol's going to make every effort possible, and Carmen knows what I'm talking about. Marisol's going to make every effort possible not to put kids from same school in the same section. They've been playing each other for 4 months. They didn't come to a tournament to play Bill, who they've played 20 different times. So Marisol's going to do everything she can. If there's a kid from Davis, and there's five kids from Davis, and we have 3 third-grade sections, we're going to do the best we can to separate them out. And that's why that word school appears on the score sheet, because we want to be able to avoid having 4 kids from same school play each other. They came to play a tournament with other kids. And usually we're going to find that sometimes we'll get 2 kids from same school because we have no choice. Now, how do we break that little bit of a challenge? If you got 4 kids and you got 3 sections, how do you break that? Marisol, any idea?
You put them in different
Kids,
sections.
you got 3 sections of third graders, you got 4 third graders from same school.
Repeat the amount.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
What you might do is just send a note to the teacher that's involved with the school and say, can you identify which of the 2 kids are close enough to each other in ability? Well, that's Bill and Charles. So Bill and Charles gets paired in the same section, and the other 2 kids are separated up, and one goes in section 2 and the other one goes in section 3. This is something that some organizers don't do. They miss it, and all of a sudden there's a section of 8 players and 5 of them from the same school. So we want to try to do what we can to, give the kids a good variety of experiences or whatever. Are there any questions at this point that I might be able to answer? Or another question for Joy? Okay, I guess we do not have that. I know that you probably received the instruction to chess tournament section monitors. And so there's a couple of notes in there that may want to check over. My thoughts are, if we can, it would be helpful to have it's really tough, but if we've got people that are experienced, and we will have experienced people who are in charge of a section, we will probably want to assign them 2 sections. They can run 2. I've had some of them walk up and say, give me 3 sections. They sit down, they run all 3. They put you to sleep almost, because they know what they're doing. And the kids know what they're doing, especially the older kids, grades 4 and up. So we give them a couple of sections to work with. Now, who's going to be just beside them? Somebody who's fairly new at what we're doing, because that's your counselor, that's your assistant. Carmen knows what I'm talking about. Carmen can shake her head and say, absolutely, we want to have that. And we're going to do best we can. So we'll be able to cover all the sections. Let me hold up something. So what do the kids get? Well, I'm going to provide some medallions, special medallions that I have that I've been holding on to. So I think those medallions should look really nice. There's also something else that all the rated players are going to receive. So what else besides first, second, and third are those other kids going to get? A smile, I don't know, a pat on the back, a kick in the pants. I don't. Let's figure it out here. Okay. I want to show you what they all, I used a big word, didn't I? 3-letter word, all. All of the recipients will receive a copy. I got to get this positioned correctly, of my cover on Chess Life. All. It's immaterial whether a youngster has won 1 game or they have won 6 games. I want them to take this home, and they will see a whole lot more about chess. Certainly my story is in here, and it applies to what we've been doing in the Morrison. But also it's a souvenir which they can look at any given time and learn about, wow, there's kids in Vermont playing chess. Yeah. And there's also kids in Thailand that play chess. We need to make certain our young people understand that this is a world game skill, that it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter what you are in around any community, because if you take a chess set with you, you'll find somebody. They'll be there. There may be a club, maybe a school. I dropped off a chess set in Australia, of all places, and also in Norway. And so I want our kids to realize that this is a worldly experience. How many worldly experiences do they get? Well, they get them on their cell phone. But one of these days, those young people will travel. They will see a part of the world, and they can take something with them that everybody around in the world is involved with to some degree. I don't know if you know where Easter Island is. I played chess in Easter Island. I mean, that's a long way from Chile and a long way from the rest of the world. And so let us share the world of chess with them, and that excitement about making new friends, whether that's a school that's 10 miles away, or whether it's a city and a country 1,000 miles away. We have an obligation to share. And I think the Morrison will have that opportunity so they can make friends. Hey, man, I met somebody at Davis. I met somebody at Johnson. I met somebody at this school, and they play chess too. Any questions that I can answer for you? And I know Joy is also available, and Maricel.
Not a question, but can you go over once a section is done and now they've taken the score and how it flows out from one table to the next, so that way we don't wait at the end and kind of do the medal and the placement. So it should be throughout the whole time that as they're finishing. Correct?
And we'll have different sections finishing at different times. We know that. Okay, so let's say I've got a section that finishes. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is have the kids sit down, remain in their chairs. They can play a little recreation because I need about 5 minutes. And I need to accurately verify that I have the spaces filled and the information filled out so that we know who is first, second, and third. And if we need to engage in a tie break and there's a problem and somehow we have to do that, raise your hand, get the floor tournament director, the chief tournament director to come over and help you work with any of that. So let's say we know that we have our 3 people, but you have 8 in a section. So you tell the other 5 kids, okay, join your parents, have a nice day. The answer is no, you don't do that. You escort all of those 8 people over to the main table where we will have awards and prizes and things that we happen to have. Escort all of them over there. Then either we will have somebody there that will receive the score sheet with the 3 names at the bottom. And then that person will have whoever is directing that table will pass out the award. So let's say there's a medallion for first place, and that's Kathy Williams. Okay, so whoever's in charge of that table will take that medallion, but we always start with third place, go second, then first place. So let's say we're at first place now, and they've already passed out the other 2. We want to make certain that the kids, go clap their hands and say, oh, okay, that's nice. And so we don't necessarily have to say the score. Well, he won 5 and he lost 1, and it was a whatever 7-section or 8-section player, whatever it happens to be. So we don't have to do that. Once that's over with, then usually when we gather them up at the main entrance, we inform them, hey, grade 3 section 2 is done. Please come over to the table. And so the parents can stand back behind the kids and we clap. And so then we dismiss the kids. We don't hand them off to their parents. We dismiss the kids at that main table. If there's any child that does not see a parent once in a while, the parents decide, well, I think I'm going to go out and get gas at the gas station. Doesn't happen often. But then we retain that child until the parent comes and gets that young person. So that's the process of awards. We do not let 30 kids sit somewhere and then we have a closing ceremony. We're dealing with younger kids. We have to handle that. We have to handle mom and dad who has a 3-year-old or whatever. So we want to award each section as it finishes. And still point out that parents are not allowed, as long as we have a section that's playing, parents are not allowed to come into the tournament area at all. That's off limits. If there is a question, then we'll answer it and we'll go from there.
Aside from the medallions, do we pass certificates for everybody to participate aside the
You
medallion?
could make up a Fullerton host certificate, but if you do, we're gonna have to, get it signed. But equally, it's gonna take time to put the names of that, all the kids, or the names of at least the first, second, and third, if you're only gonna give 3 certificates out. We've occasionally done certificates in the past. It's not been participation certificates. It's not been done that often. There are certain national events where certificates are passed out because it's a national championship or whatever. But that takes a lot of labor and time.
Okay.
I have a question. This is
Yes,
Larry.
sir.
Yeah, where will um, the medallions and your magazine be handed out? Is it near the check-in tape, registration table?
Well, let's start with the medallions, which I have. There will be at the main table, we will have an extra 2 tables where we will set them there. And then when the person in charge of the section comes up and says, hey, these kids are finished, then that person of the section will count out the number of magazines he needs. If he needs 7, then he counts out 7 and hands them out. So that way we will get all the bodies there, because that's important to, get them together as a group one last time. And then the medallions will be there on the table, and then we will identify what's going to be first, second, and third. By the way, if for any reason I'm unsure of medallions, I have a backup. One thing you know about chess players is they got a backup. My backup is that I will give out the medallions. I've got about, probably close to 30. But then the backup will be I have something called a checkbook magnetic. And it's about this size. And so if for any reason we run out of medallions because of the size of our group, I will make certain that those checkbook magnetics are made available. And so that alone is a nice souvenir. But these medallions are, they're pretty nice. I think you'll like what you see. And I also have, a lot of other things in my collection. If you spoke, please don't talk to my wife. She will. No, we don't go in the garage. There's too much out there. So yes, I'm married to a lady who's lived with my chess for 55 years. That is an amazing accomplishment. So anyway, medallions and magazines will be on the main table. If for some reason we have a student who has to withdraw early, that happens. If they played less than half of their games, they're simply marked out. Like the 2 results they had, and then mom says, we got to go for whatever reason. We just line them out, and those 2 games they played don't count for or against any players that they did. They just are, it's like they didn't even show up, okay? If they played more than half or more, then at that time we count percentages. So how many percentage wins did they have for all players? And then we try to do it that way. Fortunately, the kids are, kids usually hang around. What time, Marisol, a trivia question. What time are we going to actually start the tournament? Intros will be when? 9 o'clock?
Intros, right around 9:30. That's kind of what we have already on schedule. 9:15 registration should be wrapping up, and then 9:30 we should start right on the dot.
Yeah, we need to get this off, because trying to finish even 7 games out of 8 players, 7 games to be played from 9:30 to 12 o'clock. 2.5 hours for 7 games. You can do your math, folks. You're going to be pushing, trying to finish those last 1 or 2 games for each player. We may have to go beyond 12 o'clock, depending on section. If I get a real slow section, and I don't want a slow section, but if I do, what we have to do is we have to calculate percentage and end the tournament. So that means what percentage wins do they have? One kid could have 33%, another kid could have 62%. Whatever it is, we cannot, I don't like the idea of bringing our non-rated players back after lunch. We will want to try to finish it. And I'm using the magic number 12:30, but it's your call. You know, we'll consult. Anybody have a question about that? Because it's a tough one. It's a good chance you're going to have 1 section or 2 sections that are short a game or 2. And you're going to say, okay, what do I do? Do I bring them back at 1:30? No, I think that would be inappropriate because you're not inconveniencing 2 kids. You're inconveniencing 8 kids. So it's a tough call. And I hope the kids will, you know, will play fast enough, and we'll want them to do that.
Yeah, I got
Yes,
confused.
ma'am.
One thing you've been saying, and that's sort of what Larry said. The table for awards, I'm assuming this is outside of area somewhere designated, so the parents, when they come to, you know, say the second graders finish first, or you want to hand out the things, but it's outside that forbidden area that they can't come in.
That's correct. Let me give you an idea. Imagine you're walking into a gym. Have you
Okay.
been into the gym before at Ladera Vista?
Yes, I've been to the last tournament.
Okay. As you walk in the gym, to the left is where the registration and the awards presentation will be made. Almost immediately, you're going to turn to the left, and that's where that's located. Then you're going to walk straight ahead down the sideline of the basketball court. And to your right will be the bleachers. They will be pulled out.
Yes.
And then if you look to your left as you walk along, you will see my blue painter's tape that will stretch all the way from the back of the building up till about 30 or maybe 30 or 40 feet. So that gap between where that painter's tape ends along the line, from there to the table, to the awards table, will be large enough to accommodate the parents, the kids, and the table where the medallions are and the magazines are. We'll make
Okay,
certain that
long
that's
as it's
larger.
in front.
So-
Last time we walked near the stage, and that it was done by the stage, and that would impinge on what you're saying. So what you're saying, it's closer to the entry door.
You just walk in the entry door and make a left turn, and you're right there.
Okay.
And then where the players will be, as you walk in, the players will be off to your left, the absolute back of the building on that left-hand side, and on your right are the bleachers.
Got it.
Pretty straight up.
Thank you.
I have a question, Marlene. We were in the multi-purpose room before, but the gym is behind, further back. So
Oh,
so they're different. So you got to think about the gym in the back. Okay.
thank you. All right. I didn't know the gym had the tables that came down off the sides.
No, they're gonna bring in tables.
All
Now,
right.
8-foot tables. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a
gotcha.
custodian I work with for, I don't know, 8, 9 years. I walk in and he says, "Is this what you want?" I look, yes. He knows what to do. We're pretty confident that the custodian we work with in the past, he already knows where we want the tables. He already knows where the registration and awards table is going to be. Carmen can walk into the building blindfold and she knows within 10 feet exactly where she is, and 30 feet she knows where she is. So this is something we have used repeatedly at Ladera Vista very successfully. I like the largesse of that. Excuse me just a moment. Okay. I like the largesse of the gymnasium for our kids. It gives us the physical space we need.
Okay, I've been into the gym just for a minute because that's where the parents sat. And okay, we use the cafetorium before.
Yeah, that's a multi-purpose room, the cafeterium. That's going to go for the rated kids. Joe knows exactly what to do. He'll walk in, he'll look at all the tables that are down. He knows exactly what he wants to have as a front awards table and everything. All of those kids will also receive a copy of the Chess Life magazine. I will be giving that away to the rated players as well. So, any other questions in directions or information we can provide? Well,
No,
I thank all of you for being a part of what we do. We have a great opportunity every single tournament to share with our young people and give them a real, genuinely positive activity. So, okay, I gotta take off. I got a
Thank you, guys.
lesson
Thank
with
you,
a
Dewain. Thanks
youngster.
for all
Thank
the
you.
info.
Thank
you.
Okay,
Thank you, Dewain.
Dwayne,
we'll
thank
see you later.
Bye.
Bye.